after the arrival of a mysterious being severely impacts her once mundane existence. Long before humans, a vast array of creatures have existed during Earth's many eras. As numerous beasts have thrived and evolved, one entity has yet to develop, lacking the perfect vessel to latch onto as it searches for millennia. It finally reached Africa, traveling from different hosts until hunters captured its latest vessel, a leopard. The animal is sent via ship to human civilization and sold as merchandise. In France, a truck drives into a plot of land carrying cargo for the circus owner Lawman inside a trailer home. Yaka steps on a weight scale and notes the result on a piece of paper on the wall outside the truck. The driver peeks into the trailer while searching for Lawman. When he spots Yaka from one of the windows, Lawman emerges from the trailer and confronts the man for peeping on. They hear the circus animals reacting to something in the truck. So Lawman asks the driver what you brought him, and the man says it's an animal Lawman. And the driver peek into the cargo truck and immediately make a transfer transaction. The shipment is a new leopard for the circus's animal show. They transfer it into their cage as the workers excitedly welcome the new acquisition. Meanwhile, the driver steals glances at the beautiful, who comes out to observe the commotion outside. The driver apologizes to the woman for what happened earlier. Then he starts flirting and vying for her attention while Lawman watches them from afar. As Yaka joins her husband, the leopard starts acting strangely, aggressively trying to escape the cage. Lawman tells everyone to leave the animal alone so it can calm down. Later, the tamer tries to train 3 tigers for their next performance. Lama arrives and admonishes Yaka for her lateness before pushing her into the performance area. Moments later, the tamer thinks something's agitating the tigers. In the middle of practice, one of the tigers jumps over the frightened woman, so she runs away in fear. The driver follows her outside the tent and the two share a passionate kiss. When they sense approaching, the driver escapes, leaving Yaka in a compromising. Her husband sees her and slaps her across the face. Later that night, Yaka sleeps in bed while Lawman does some accounting. Suddenly he hears a commotion outside and goes investigate. The circus owner sees the woeful tamer, who tells him that the new leopard died after something burst out from the animal's body. Upon seeing the grotesque animal remains, Lawman rounds up his workers to find the mysterious creature. Unbeknownst to them, the parasitic slug-like creature enters through Yanka's trailer roof and it slithers towards the bed and enters her body. Lama notices the dog barking at his trailer and goes back inside. He sees Yaka sleeping soundly on the bed, undisturbed. The next day, the unwell Yaka throws up in the bathroom. She checks her weight, surprised that she's gained over 4 pounds in one day. Later, Yank heads to the hospital to get. Seeing the result of her test, Yaka wanders anxiously back to the circus. She sees her husband fighting with another circus worker, and Yaka caresses her wound, worried about the future, fearing for her child's safety. Yaka packs her clothes and steals Lawman's money. She then leaves in a hurry to catch the train. Days after, a cab driver tells Lawman about a woman he dropped off in the sketchy part of town. The driver recalls how unstable she seemed and how she was muttering too. The taxi drops him off and Lama enters the destitute building, searching for his wife on the top floor. The man finds Yaka in her red robe. He hugs and kisses his wife, begging her to come home. Behind your back, Yaka holds a kitchen knife. Suddenly, the woman stabs this abdomen and Lawman falls to the ground unhinged. She asks what she's supposed to do next. Then she raises her knife above Lawman. Poised to leave the man, but Yaka begged someone not to make her do it. Unable to finish the act, the woman throws the knife and moves away from her husband. Lawman grabs her robe and the cloth less. Yanka runs and screams in terror. Yaka starts talking to, and a demonic voice from the woman's womb answers and tells her to slay her husband the following day. Yaka wakes up and drinks water from the rain leaking from the ceiling. The woman sasses the Lawman and retrieves her red robe. Suddenly, the voice speaks up and says it's hungry for Lawman's blood. Yaka immediately holds her belly, aware that it's her child's voice. It tells its mother to feed to be able to grow, but Yaka is reluctant to comply. However, the child threatens to burst out from her body. If she doesn't feed it, Yaka takes the fork and tries to stab her belly, but the creature hurts her from within. The woman falls to the ground, throwing up blood as she crosses the llama's body. The excruciating pain forces Yaka to slice up her deceased husband and drink his blood that night. Yaka wakes to the sound of chaos in the building, so her child immediately warns her of the danger and she flees the building in an alley. The creature tells her to slit a beggar's throat, so Yaka slowly takes a broken bottle and creeps toward the unsuspecting man. Determined to resist the creature's orders, she walks towards the river and jumps in to drown. The baby begs frantically for Yaka to save herself, swearing that it'll never hurt her again. Later, Yaka sits beside the river, wrapped in a thick blanket. Her child apologizes and tries to convince her that it isn't a monster by saying it talks and thinks like a human. Later, a truck passes by and the driver says she can hit you. Ride with him on the road. The man starts telling the uninterested Yaka his life story when they stop by a gas station. Unable to break through Yaka's steely exterior, the driver tells her to change her clothes in the gas station while he fuels up. However, the man only wants her out of the vehicle as he's already convinced 2 other women to ride in his truck. Instead, he leaves Ika at the gas station. Enter C remarks about how cruel the world of men can be. 2 months later, a man named Richard enters a restaurant and gets in line upon reaching the cashier. He starts begging forgiveness for his infidelity from the angry. After charming the woman, Richard asks for cash and gets his lunch free of charge. The man sits on one of the tables when he catches a glimpse of the beautiful Yaka, who works in the restaurant bussing table. Moments later, Yaka sits downstairs as the enamored man follows her. Unable to see in the dark, Richard trips and falls to the ground, screaming. Rosette hears the noise and asks him what he's doing in the empty downstairs dining area. So Richard says he was looking for the restroom when the couple leaves Yaka, and the creature expressed their disappointment for missing out on the opportunity to feed on the clueless man. Later, Int waits outside the restaurant for her lover to pick her up from work when she notices a bloody napkin on the ground. Meanwhile, the creature tells Yaka to find their next victim at a nearby restaurant. Minutes later, Richard arrives and joins her at the table. Enter Child Room remarks how easy it is to lure human. During the meal, the babbling, arrogant man's stories, Bianca and the creature. Richard shows her a picture of when he worked as a circus clown and asks if she's done anything significant in her life. Yaka tears up and despondently says she's done nothing noteworthy at all. They leave the restaurant and Richard walks her home. He tries to get her to let him come inside, but Yanka refuses and reasons that she feels. The next day, Rosette tries to call Richard, but the man doesn't answer. She begins to suspect the Yaka as she sees the woman to descend the stairs into the empty dining area. That night, Yaka roams the streets and spots a prospective victim. She follows him into a building and the man asks Yaka why she's been following him. The bellman makes out with the Yaka just before she stabs his neck with a blade. Suddenly, people filing out of a nearby door sees them, so she kisses the dying man on the lips and pretends they're in a passionate embrace to avoid. Yaka runs away to avoid getting caught and the man perishes. She reaches her apartment and sees Richard waiting for her by the stairs. They then spend the night together making love. The following morning, Yaka wakes up and takes a cigarette from Richard's pocket. The creature admonishes her for smoking while pregnant and orders her to stop. Having had enough of the creature's authoritarian control over her body, YCA threatens to stab her stomach with a pair of scissors. Hearing her angry screeches, Richard enters the kitchen, interrupting her crazed behavior. He expresses his desire for the relationship to continue and even wishes to marry and raise a family. With her unhinged, Yaka stamps the poor man in the stomach as he screams in agony. All of a sudden, Rosette comes knocking on Janka's door, demanding to see her cheating lover. Yaka lets her in and she enters the dark kitchen in a panic. Yaka locks Rosette in the room and escapes the building. Retz bangs on the door, demanding Yaka at the letter. Suddenly, the refrigerator door opens and Richard, gasping his last breath, begs her for help. The terrifying sight compels Rosette to scream in fear. 6 months later, a man hails the taxi cab driven by Yaka. He tells her to turn right, but the woman ignores his instructions, determined to chase down her target, a jogger. The passenger demands the woman let him out, but Yaka elbows him in the face to subdue him. After she sideswipes the jogger, Yaka corners the man before violently crushing him with it. Then she gets out of the car and delivers a blow to the victim's neck with a heavy metal tool. Decapitating him, her passenger regains consciousness and sees the grotesque scene in fear. He scrambles to escape, but gets hit by an oncoming truck after some time. The creature asks its mother if she's developed any affection for him, to which the woman admits that she has. However, her fear of its monstrosity prevents her from fully accepting the child as she dreams of its horrifying. One day, Yank's car breaks down and a helpful man offers to fix her vehicle. Suddenly, the woman throws up blood, scaring the mechanic. He stops the taxi and asks the driver to take her to the nearest hospital, believing she's about to give birth. Despite Yaka not wanting to go to the hospital, the man assures she'll be there soon. The woman grabs his arm, making him lose control of the wheel and crashing the vehicle into a wall. Yaka escapes, but her extreme exhaustion causes her to faint. Later, she wakes up on a couch as a kind older woman looks after her. However, Yaka chokes the woman with a telephone cord and escapes through them. Yaka cries as she asks the child what's happening to her, and the creature says she'll be giving birth soon. The pregnant woman learns that her child wants to return to the sea after the delivery because it's where it came from. It'll stay in the ocean for millennia to evolve until it reaches a farm capable of taking over the planet to complete the creature's manifestation. The child needs more blood and asks its mother to hijack a blood transfusion. Plus, Yaka succeeds by using a toy gun, threatening all the doctors and donors to leave. Except for one man, she snatches and drinks the blood bags, satisfying the creature's hunger to take her child to the scene. Yaka steals the bus and drives away while the woman's driving the weekend. Man at the back of the bus sneaks up and grabs Yaka, causing the vehicle to crash. Soon an ambulance rescues Yaka, but the man on the bus perishes. The medic tries to resuscitate the woman with CPR, but finally stops when he's unable to detect. Meanwhile, the creature inside her starts to feel the coldness of her body and fears that its mother is dying. Determined to keep Bianca alive, the creature makes Bianca's heart beat again, waking the pregnant woman. She attacks the medic by filling him up with pressurized gas, causing his body to explode. The ambulance driver hears the commotion and stops the vehicle to investigate, but Yaka bashes him in with an oxygen tank. Suddenly, the woman's abdomen contracts as she goes into. Yaka starts to push the child out, and after her efforts finally brings forth the human baby. Later, she steals a minivan from an unsuspecting man who stopped to check the road. She drives the car while trying to ask her child what she's expected to do next. However, the child can't communicate with her anymore. In the middle of their journey, they run into car trouble, so Yanka stops by a gas station. She leaves the child in the car, and a passing traveler hears its cries. He approaches the car and sees the baby through the window. All of a sudden, the monster grabs the traveler and pulls him into the vehicle to devour him. Hearing the man screams, Yaka immediately runs back to the car, but all she finds is the lifeless man and the creature's discarded human. Yaka finds a trail of blood leading to a bus full of soccer players. She begs the driver for a ride so she can secretly search for the creature. Later, one of the players wakes up and sees Senka, and he immediately alerts the others of the woman's presence. The men harass and touch her inappropriately while she desperately tries to warn them of the dangerous creature. Unbeknownst to all the passengers of the creature sneaks up on and attacks the driver. The man loses control of the bus, so Yaka breaks free of the men. Spend runs through the wheel to confront it. Then one of the players notices the vile creatures attached to the driver's head and screams in fear. He runs to the back of the bus, causing panic among the rest. Seeing the creature's final form and the destruction it might bring, Yaka decides to let go of the wheel and face her